Hey, what's going on YouTube? So today I'm going to showcase an Oakensoul heavy attack build for the Magicka Dragonknight, updated for the Necrom Update 39 DLC patch. This build parses about 90k on the trial dummy and is optimized for group content. As with all builds, please use these builds as a baseline, as there are many viable gear sets and skills in the game, and builds should be tailored for specific content for the most optimal results. Because this is a hybrid build, and we are in medium armor, penetration can become an issue. Furthermore, this is not a solo build, but maybe with a skill change or two, most notably a heal, it should be work fine for overland content as well. So, as per usual, starting off in the character sheet, I have 64 points into Magicka and Thief Mundus as per usual. For the race, because we are a Magicka based build, we're just going high elf for the most optimum DPS. For the food, you have a few different options, but bi-stat or tri-stat food is probably going to be your best bet. So something like sugar skulls for tri-stat and any blue bi-stat food for health and Magicka would work just fine. For parsing though, you can run single stat, just green food, max mag green food, and you should be good. For the potions, because we are a heavy attack build and our sustain is really good, we can just opt to use resistance potions for that unique resistance buff to make us even more tanky. You can also use tri-stat if you prefer that, because it will give you stam and mag back, so if you do need more of those resources, tri-stat wouldn't be a bad option as well. So for the CP, for the blue tree, we're running exploiter, weapons expert, deadly aim, and backstabber. This build, the way it is, doesn't have access to off balance, so if you do need to run off balance to proc exploiter, you can always run lightning staff with a charged shock glyph on your front bar and you should be good. For the red CP, we're just running celerity. That should be rejuvenation, fortified, and balanced vitality. Moving on to gear, so we're just running the same setup as the other Oakensoul builds, but we have a lightning staff for the sergeant, precise, with a flame damage enchant for the main hand. For the head slot, we're running one piece slime light, divines with max mag. For the chest slot, we have one piece sergeant's mail, divine with max mag. And 5 pieces of the body, we have deadly, all trade and divines with max mag. And for the jewelry, 2 pieces of sergeant, weapon and spell damage, bloodthirsty, and Oakensoul, weapon and spell damage, bloodthirsty. So for the skills, we're running burning talons. This is a decent dot, but most importantly, it has low duration, so you are able to frequently cast it. And DK's not doing that much damage on Oakensoul heavy attack. Just this alone will give it just that little extra damage. Barb trap, strong dot. On top of that, procs hemorrhaging, and we don't need minor force because it is redundant with the Oakensoul ring, so still very strong. Does require you to be in melee range though. Eruption, standard DK dot, does an initial damage, but don't recast this too early because the initial damage can occur only once every 10 seconds. Flames of Oblivion, another strong dot. So the major prophecy and savagery is redundant, but it does hit multiple targets, 3 enemies. Don't recast this early as well. And lastly, single target dot that ramps up in damage, venomous claw. Don't recast this early because it does ramp up in damage. And lastly, the standard of might, the standard DK ult. So for the rotation, we are running a dynamic rotation, meaning we're going to be recasting dots as they fall off in a priority order. So Barb Trap, Flames of Oblivion, Eruption, Venomous Claw, and Burning Talons should be recasted in that order. Burning Talons is kind of like a semi-spammable, and it does line up perfectly with 2 heavy attacks, so you'll be casting it quite often. And you can just drop your standard of might whenever it's ready. Also, just a quick tip, try not to recast your Burning Talons, Venomous Claw, and Flames of Oblivion early because it will affect your DPS. So for closing thoughts, I'd say the flex spot is really dependent on what you're doing, but Trap and Venomous Claw do require you to be at melee range, so you can swap those out for something else if you do need to play at range. Talons can also be flexed for another skill. I did try some parses with Whip instead of Talons, and it was pretty much the same DPS, but I did have to cast Whip quite a bit. As far as off balance is concerned, since you do a lot more damage with heavy attacks during off balance, including proccing exploiter, I definitely recommend that if you don't have a source of off balance, you bring Wall of Elements and a shock glyph on your front bar to ensure that you can get decent uptimes on it. Just very quickly, some gear alternatives. The Undaunted sets aren't actually that bad, so you can run them if you prefer that. Night Slayer is an okay set, but does proc damage. Infallible Mage, I'd say, is not very good, especially because the Minor Slayer is redundant, and the heavy attack boost itself isn't that great. Noble Duelist is probably your best choice if you are lacking in pen. It is pretty strong, and it is in light armor. And lastly, you can still run Stormmaster. You're not going to lose too much DPS, but Deadly is a little bit better. And I think that wraps it up. As always, thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, or better yet, come join our Discord. Link is in the description. I will have a written guide linked in the description for those who would prefer that instead. And as always, thank you to my YouTube members. If you want to help me support my content creation, please consider becoming a member. And as always, thanks again, and see you in the next one.